All right, I'll just move that over there. Columella, book 8, book 11 actually, and his farm works. This chapter's about the Villicus as the overseer of the farm and of gardening. Claudius Augustalis, whatever this is. The Lobes is the title. Augustalis has two meanings: member of the College of Priests, blah blah blah, and an order of priests that supervise the rites of Caesar worship. So that's a bit of info there. We have a tam quam correlatives there. Here's a nominative going with Claudius. So Claudius was an adolescent. He was of many. Is very desirous of many things, and just as equal as he was in his ingenuity of his nature, inborn nature, as he was of his education. So he was naturally pretty smart, and he had a good education of many different types of studies. And especially, he was instigated or provoked or prodded by the sermons or the works of agricultors, which are farmers. That looks dative, so he's he's forced out of me that I would, there's the ut for that I would componere, or I would write basically in prose, a bit of oratory of horticulture, basically that means there. Tama, nevertheless, north should this eventus of a thing, this outcome of the matter, or the turnout from this, neither should it be deceiving me, or escape me, when the material, which was forespoken in a previous letter or something, I was implicaring, I was writing according to the legibus, the laws of songs, or basically the way, so it's not prose, the ways of writing verse, basically. But for you, vocative, Publius Silvanus, very pertinently or obstinately, to you here he's still in the dative, to you seeking a taste of our verses, or my verse, I didn't want to deny you this. I sustain means taking up or whatever. I decided not to deny this, and soon, facturus, I will be doing it, looks like, because it's in the nominative, if impersonal, if it's pleasing or something. This thing which now I'm starting, gradioring, that I will subtext or weave in texting. Actually, it comes from weaving, but so you might want to say, I'll add the care or duties of a gardener, a holiator, to the duties of the villicae, which is up here was the overseer, which I mentioned. Quae, which means which, quam vis, however much or although, I seemed primo libo in the first book of country life, or providing crops in the country or something, executed. So I've followed this out, aliqua tennis, it's a tennis with the ablative in front. So to some extent I seem to have followed up this, since nevertheless our Augustellus, our priest, as I spoke about earlier, the same priest, he is rather often demanded another book with a similar desire or a similar wanting. So the number, which now is as if I've consummated or I've finished all the works, I've exceeded the number of volumes, and I'm handing into memory this, an 11th book of the precepts or instructions of how to run a country estate, rusticination or whatever. 3. The villicum, it's in the accusative, so this overseer or bailiff who's placed in charge of the fundo and the family. Fundo is the estate or the farm. The family is the group of slaves most likely that lives there. Another impersonal convenant. So it is fitting that the accusative is of an age neither prima or ultima. So he's not in his first years of life, so you wouldn't hire someone who's like 17 or someone who's 90, I suppose. 4. Servitia, we'll take those as the slaves, they spurn, because it's plural, so it's a neuter plural. They sperm thus the tyro. Tyro is a raw recruit in the army. This is even diminutive, even more so. The very, very, very raw person being put in charge, they sort of spurn or have contempt for a very young person, as they do with an old person. since one does not yet know the works of the farm, the other, yam non, or non-yam, means no longer is able to exequy, is not able to fulfill the duty. And the adolescenceness, the youthfulness, he makes him very negligent, so he makes mistakes. And the senectus, the old man, he does things very pigrum, which is lazy or slow. Igitur, therefore, middle age is very apt to this dative, to this duty. And he is able, from 5 and 30, so from 35 years, usqui as far as, sometimes you see usquiad, sometimes it's usquin, as far as his 65th. So he can perform his job from 35 to 65, if nothing fortuitous, a fortuitous vice. Usually we think something fortuitous is good, but it just happens by chance, so it can be bad as well. If some vice of the bodies should intervene, I guess, like if he loses an arm or a leg, he should be satisfactorily valid or strong to perform these duties of a farmer. Okay, so here's Lewis and Short. Rustication, which we saw earlier, someone who lives in the country or country life, but here in Columella, which is what we're reading, I'm guessing, it's also in the Vulgate, looks like, just means agriculture and husbandry. Husbandry is usually animal husbandry, but I guess plants can do husbandry or whatever. Okay, so now, quiz. Whoever is chosen or destined for this job, this negodio, it ought to be someone who is very scientissimus, very well full of knowledge, and very robust as well, very strong. So that at correlatives, he can teach the subjects, and very suitably, commodity, he can faciat, he can do the job very suitably and conveniently, the things which he's teaching. Si quedam, take that as if indeed or sense. Nothing can be rightly taught without example or learnt, other impersonal. So it's better for the vilicum, the bailiff or overseer, as you can see it takes the infinitive, that he's the teacher of his works, and not just a tyro, as we saw before, a student or a learner. And even from this head of the family, paterfamilias of earlier times, Cato taught this example, or he spoke it. So badly things are done when the master, whom the vilicus, who the bailiff teaches. So the guy in charge should know what he's doing. Got to move things around. And so in these economics of whoever he is, some Greek, which Marcus Cicero handed down into the Latin tongue, into Latin words, he, the famous Ischomachus, an Athenian, he was asked by Socrates, utrimni, whether, if a res family, would he prefer, it looks like, to buy the overseer, just as you would with a faber. Fabrum is someone who makes, like, if he's working with iron or just making things, or if he preferred customarily to teach him himself. Now he said, I teach him myself, I institute him myself. Etenem for, or in fact, he who in my absence substitutes in my place and is vicariously succeeding in my duties, my diligence of doing the farming, the things which I do, he ought to know. So basically he teaches himself so he knows exactly what he's doing. But also, these are nimium prisca, these are excessively old, and indeed of the same time in which this guy, Chomachus, he denied that anyone did not know how to farm. So two negatives, he denied they didn't, so he said everyone did know how to farm in his time. 6. Nos autem. However, us, being mindful of our own ignorance, we command or place, adolescents of strong, robust bodies and of sense vigilant or vigorous, We put them in charge of the most experienced farmers, of whom, with their advices, either one or from many, for it's difficult to teach someone, uh, not only of this farm work, but imperanding means of ordering, um, consequatur means followed up, science, blah blah blah, since I'm sticking literally to the Latin. The whole bit there together means basically putting young, strong boys in front of charge of the very good farmers, and they learn how to order them about and gain knowledge or whatever. For there are certain people, although they're very approved of in their arts of doing the work, they are leastly prudent or wise when it comes to ordering people, or they are too savage or too lenient in agendoing and carrying out the thing, and they corrupt the rem of their masters, the state of their masters.